In this morning's Money Watch, the debt ceiling. Today, the government reaches its legal borrowing limit, $14.3 trillion. Only Congress can raise the debt level, but Republican leaders are fighting with the president over how much to cut spending. On Face the Nation Sunday, Speaker of the House John Boehner said the president needs to get serious.
He's talking about it, but I'm not seeing real action yet. And I just think this is the moment. We all know what the problems are. Why don't we just deal with them? No more kicking the can down the road. No more whistling past the graveyard. And now is the time to deal with the fiscal problems we have in an adult-like manner.
Joining us now is CBS News business and economics correspondent Rebecca Jarvis. Rebecca, good morning.
Morning, Chris.
So what does this mean for the overall well-being of the U.S. economy? And should people at home, should they be worried when they hear talk like this?
Well, take a look at why we're in this position. As a country, we're just spending a heck of a lot more money than we're making. For every dollar that the U.S. government spends, about 60 cents of that dollar comes from collections and taxes, but 40 cents of that money comes from our borrowings. That means we need to raise debt as a country in order to really generate the kind of growth and pay the kind of commitments that we've made to pensioners, to people who are taking Social Security, Medicare, all of these programs that are out there that are supposed to help Americans. Well, we have to borrow to make good on those commitments. And as a result of that, if this goes through and we don't pass the debt ceiling, some of those things could actually be hindered. Payments on many of those programs may not be met.
Are we going to see an immediate reaction here to the U.S. economy?
Today, not so much, but August 2 is really the major deadline that we're looking at here. That's the day where Treasury, Congress, they can't get more money to meet those obligations. There's been a lot of trepidation around this because not only is this a question of a debt ceiling, but it's also a question of just too much debt. So there's fear about that in general.
I want to talk to you about a number here. A new Gallup poll says that 47% of Americans don't want the debt ceiling to be raised, but Speaker Boehner and President Obama both agree that it should be raised. Now, their ways of getting there are totally different. How big is that divide?
It's a pretty significant divide. What you have from Speaker Boehner is a plan where we raise the debt ceiling, but we also cut future spending. From the president, what we have is more of a plan where we raise the debt ceiling and we sort of strip out that future question mark, and we approach that future question mark at a later date and also potentially raise taxes in order to get there.
All right, this past weekend, and of course, as we talked about earlier in the broadcast, the International Monetary Fund chief, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, was arrested on Saturday night, instrumental in bailing out Greece the first time around. Greece needs an additional bailout. Of course, he was also instrumental in those talks. What does this mean for the global economy overall and Greece as they continue to try to get out of the rut that they're in?
Right, remember, Greece is in this rut because they took on too much debt as a country, and the International Monetary Fund as well as the overall European Union had to step up in order to bail them out. Right now, the market is relatively unfazed by the question of Dominique Strauss-Kahn's future, but the market is fazed by the future of Greece because it's a huge question and it will have huge implications and a ripple effect for us here in the United States. When it was an open question last week, before all of this drama around the IMF chief, it was still a major issue for the markets, and we did see declines here in the United States stock market as well.
All right, Rebecca Jarvis, thanks. Good to see you this morning.